Okay, it's on. All right. Do you want me to go first? Because it's probably like. All right. So, you know that like full power Itachi is above suppressed Itachi, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you know that suppressed Itachi is above Orochimaru, right?
How do you know he's suppressed against Orochimaru?
Against Orochimaru. Does
Yeah.
he ever fight Orochimaru?
Yeah, he fights him.
When? Because I was told that was in part 2.
He says that he's already tried to fight, but he was defeated by Itachi.
Well, it doesn't even necessarily matter that he's suppressed against Orochimaru. It's just like stated that his true power is a mystery. So that would like just imply to me that he was suppressed and that no one actually knows how strong he truly is. Do you have that guide, or do you need me to post it?
See that?
Pardon, you cut out. Sorry.
I said, yeah, I'd like to see that.
Okay, cool. Let me scroll up in my scans and post it. Oh, it's in my DMs with Renji. That's why. Yeah, here it is. I'll post it and then I'll read it out for the recording. Just post everything in scans.
Yeah.
It's at the bottom. Oh, Atam, give me pick poems. I can't post scans.
I'll give you both pick poems. Hold on.
There we go. Okay. So, the scan is sideways, but it says, there are few people that know Itachi, and his true strength is wrapped in mystery, but apparently he inherited the Sharingan, which is a Kekkei Genkai.
Okay. So, it says that his true strength is wrapped in mystery. That doesn't mean that his is a mystery.
It's wrapped in mystery. That doesn't mean it is a mystery. What do you mean by that?
Like, let's say you know what a pig in a blanket is? You know what that is?
No.
Okay, so a pig in a blanket is a little hot dog with a bread around it. That's why it's called a pig in a blanket.
Mm-hmm.
So, thing being wrapped in that bread does not make the hot dog bread itself.
I don't think that's quite analogous, because what the statement is saying is that, there are few people that know Itachi, and his true strength is wrapped in mystery, right? I don't think when it says like wrapped in mystery, what it means by that is that it's clouded, right? No one actually really knows what this true strength is, because like the phrase like wrapped in this is like that's generally what the connotation attached to that is. Like, if something's wrapped in mystery, it's unknown. It's just like synonymous with unknown.
Yeah, I don't think it's synonymous with unknown. What it means to me is that there's things that people aren't sure of, all the details aren't clear, but they have a general idea. You would have to prove to me that when we're talking colloquially, it means that the thing itself is unknown. Because you're asserting that because it's wrapped in something unknown, we don't know what it is. And that's not the case. That's not what wrapped means. So I need you to prove the colloquial meaning.
Okay, so the reason I'm dictating that it's like or colloquial, or like just from like how I'm interpreting it, is based upon the scan. It's saying, his true strength is wrapped in mystery, and we even see the stats card just showing like a question mark, not even showing these stats. And like even on the side, a bunch of the information is just unknown, which just leads credence to this idea that when it's talking about all these different unknowns that Itachi has, and then it goes on to say that even his strength is wrapped in mystery, supported by how like the stats cards just have this like big question mark. Yet we know that people have fought Itachi, and they've like just said like, oh no, he's like not even showing his true power and shit like this. It just all leads support to the idea that no one actually knows. This isn't too relevant, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but you can give like a rebuttal and then we can move on.
I have one question for you. Is this before or after his fight with Kakashi?
I don't know when. This is guidebook 1, I think.
Okay, can you just look up when guidebook 1 came out?
I don't know when it came out. I'd have to let me like. What's it like? What's the actual title of the data book? Like, is it just data book 1?
Like not the guidance or some shit.
What would this change if it came out before Kakashi? Could you tell me?
Because then we would just know what his true power is. They would just be talking about the Mangekyo Sharingan. Because the thing that people don't know about is his capabilities with the Mangekyo Sharingan, which is what Kakashi elaborates on. So it would just further cement the fact that people generally know that he has the Sharingan, but he also has the Mangekyo Sharingan, which few people know about. So that would allow my interpretation to become valid.
Okay, so
Or valid.
the thing here is that both of our interpretations don't conflict with each other. They can both move forward. He can be people can not know his like actual like stats wise strength, and also it can be referring to how they don't know about his Mangekyo Sharingan, because these two interpretations don't actually conflict with each other. There's no problem with going forward with both of them. And it would actually it would actually even be supported by like we could like actually make a strong narrative case for this too. Like, oh, if I'm pushing both of these ideas, well, that's good narrative, right? It's talking about, oh, Itachi's so strong and people don't even know about his Mangekyo. Like, these two interpretations don't really conflict with each other. They can both go forward at the same time.
They can go forward because we know that Kakashi, we now know what his stats are. We've seen him fight Kakashi and pull out the thing that people didn't know about. So we do generally know how fast he is, how strong he is, and what his physical capabilities are by virtue of his fight with Kakashi. So we now know what those mysteries were. So if that thing came preceding the fight with Kakashi, it would just mean that all of that mystery was unwrapped because we saw what Itachi can do.
Okay, so are you trying to like assert that that we knew exactly like how fast and how strong he was during that Kakashi fight?
I'm saying we learned how fast and how strong he is.
Based on
His fight with Kakashi, we see him fight. Because before that, it's wrapped in mystery. Because we have no idea what the fuck. I'm pretty sure in that scan, like, isn't Itachi like shrouded in darkness or some shit? Or am I tripping?
No, I think there is like this like shrouding effect and it's showing his Sharingan and shit.
So we have no information on Itachi at this point, except for the fact that he killed the whole fucking clan, right? So that's all we know about him combat-wise. So all of it being question marks makes sense. But then it's elaborated upon with how powerful he is when we see him fight Kakashi.
Okay, so in that fight, we know that Kakashi blatantly says, like, oh, he hasn't even begun to show his true strength, right? And now you would probably argue, oh, it's just referring to his Mangekyo, right? I don't think he even knew that he had a Mangekyo here, because he was, like, super fucking surprised when he was like, oh, shit, no way! He's got to show his, like, power! And he's like, oh, let me show you my clan's true strength, right? So, yeah, it could be referring to the Mangekyo here, but I also think, like I said earlier, it's referring to both his stats and the Mangekyo, because after he pulls out the Tsukuyomi, and he hits like Kakashi with it, he's like, oh, he could just kill me if he wanted to, why not just kill me? So it's like, yeah, he could be referring to the Mangekyo here, but that doesn't actually negate that he could also just be like talking about stats, right? You could keep going and saying, oh, it's just referring to Mangekyo, his true strength is just the Mangekyo, people only know about this Mangekyo, but at no point will that ever actually conflict with my interpretation of, oh yeah, it can just be referring to stats too.
Okay, yeah, there's reasons to explain all of that. So you said, let's start from the very beginning. Nowhere is it like brought up or talked about that it's his stats. Like the thing he mentions is he hasn't even begun to show his true strength. And then when Itachi says, I'm going to reveal the true power of my clan, he immediately says, close your eyes. He's finna use his thing. He doesn't know what it is, but he knows that it has to deal with the Sharingan, which goes in part again with the fact that that's what it means to be shrouded in mystery, wrapped in mystery. The whole thing isn't a mystery, but certain parts of it are. And then after he uses the Tsukuyomi on him, he's like, yeah, he could finish me right now. That doesn't imply at all that he's now no longer holding back his stats. It's just that Kakashi has been weakened from taking the Tsukuyomi. And the reason that he doesn't attack Kakashi is because the Tsukuyomi took so much out of him that he's just fucking exhausted. Like he's panting and sweating after he uses the Tsukuyomi, right? So your interpretation has no evidence to support it. Meanwhile, my interpretation is the point with all the evidence. But like you said, this doesn't have tons of bearing, so we can move on from this point.
Yeah. So just to like attack that, like you said, like I had no evidence. The reason I was like talking about this, like true strength thing, is because like if Orochimaru is saying, oh, he's stronger than me, that would like go into like, oh, well, if he's stronger than him, but like everyone's like, oh, his true strength is like the Mangekyo. Well, it can refer to both because we know he's stronger than this person and he's also has this. Like I said earlier, these two things don't actually conflict with each other. We don't have to create this conflict in the narrative, right? So, like I was just saying earlier, there doesn't have to be a clash, a conflict, or a contradiction between our scalings. They can both go forward. There is no problem with that, in narrative-wise or context-wise. So, returning...
That's both of our scalings are opposed to each other because you're saying that his true strength is the Mangekyo Sharingan. Or I'm saying his true strength is Mangekyo Sharingan, and you're asserting that his true strength is his Mangekyo Sharingan and stats that we don't know about. But and I'm saying that the evidence for it being him talking solely about the Sharingan is more powerful than the evidence that you presented in response to saying it's also his stats. So I think my assertion goes through. I am directly opposed to you talking about stats, and that's why I gave my assertion as to why it would be solely the Mangekyo Sharingan. So both of our scalings cannot go through.
Yeah, I understand you believe that. I was just explaining to you what I was actually basing it off of, and it was that Orochimaru, how Orochimaru thinks he's stronger than him. So that's why I was just like quickly clarifying that I was just basing it off this, and that's why I believe that our two things don't conflict or contradict each other. So we can move on now because I think we're done here.
Yeah. So I also think that Itachi is, or not Itachi, Hiruzen is also definitively way faster than Orochimaru. Like I think he's a blitz speed above him.
So you think he was blitzing Orochimaru? Could you
Yeah, when he stops holding back, I think that he blitzed.
Yeah, so I want to but I definitely want to tackle that, but first I want to set like some prior things to that before we go into that, because I know what you're going to talk about, but I want to set some things up before that. So are you aware of like all the scans that like Hiruzen and Orochimaru both like believing that Orochimaru is stronger than Hiruzen?
Yeah, I don't care.
You don't care about this?
Okay. Before he starts holding back.
Pardon? Sorry, you cut out.
That's before Hiruzen stops holding back. Like he removes the mental blocks that keeps him from killing Orochimaru. And all those statements are before he does that. So I think all of those statements are irrelevant.
Okay, yeah. So what I was going to talk about here is like, yeah, and like I just said prior, he can be weaker and be holding back. Like these two things don't actually have to conflict with each other. Like, sure, yeah, he can be like holding back and he doesn't have like this resolve to kill Orochimaru, but he can also just be like weaker than Orochimaru. And like normally, these two things like can both be true at the same time.
All right, I think they can't be true at the same time because I'm saying that Hiruzen definitively has higher stats than Orochimaru, and you're saying that he's weaker. So they do conflict.
Okay. So now you're proposing that like, are you basically trying to say the feats contradict the statements?
That's what I said originally.
Okay.
I glitches him, and you tried to say that he's weaker. I said no, that's not the case.
Okay, yeah. So sorry to interrupt. I was just trying to make sure like I understand like what the actual argument is, because you was being like the way you were wording it was just like wasn't really clicking. So now I know what you're actually arguing. We can move forward now. So continue.
So yeah, I would just say that all of those statements are when he's holding back, and then he stops holding back, and he's demonstrably superior to Orochimaru.
Okay, and what are you using to base this off of?
In the entire fight, they're exchanging blows before this, correct?
No, he was exchanging blows with the Kage. He fires like an Enma shot at Orochimaru, and Orochimaru reacts, and then later on they clash, and then like we get to that feat that you talk about.
They're responding, like they're going back and forth. No one has like a definitive advantage. Do you agree?
Later on, sure, not up until like I think at a certain point where like the narrative would dictate a certain thing. But
I don't care narrative, like demonstrably on the page. Orochimaru throws out a jutsu, Hiruzen responds with a jutsu. Orochimaru throws out another jutsu, Hiruzen responds. That's what I'm saying. That happened.
Can you post that scan? I don't know what you're exactly referring to. I haven't read Naruto too many times. Like I don't know much about it, so.
Let me go to the chapter real quick.
Why are people saying that to me? Tim, shut the fuck up.
I'm trying to remember.
Because like, from what I read of that fight, the only time I ever see like Orochimaru like exchange with Hiruzen is like when he swings at Tobirama dodges and he fires Enma at Orochimaru and Orochimaru just blocks it.
Look for it. I'd rather just look for it rather than us just trying to recall based on memory.
Yeah, I know. I'm just telling you like what I like remember from it because I don't remember like them exchanging jutsu or anything.
Wait.
Fucking hate Jester.
Is that a crumbling leaf? Probably.
Where's my phone? Oh, hang on, give me a second. Sorry, I couldn't find my phone. Oh, wrong headphone.
I'm about to start saving and posting scans.
Are you posting in scans?
No, I'm saving them right now
Oh.
to post.
Jester, I can post you my setup. It's on like the smallest table in the world, though. Why's that picture look so dark? Oh, I posted it on the wrong server.
So he actually has 3 exchanges with Orochimaru.
Okay.
It's shown that each time one of the whatchamacallits, the reanimated summons are performing a jutsu, Orochimaru has to manipulate them with his own. Yeah, I'm posting them all now.
Okay.
And he also has an exchange where he fires off his jutsu. Like both he and Orochimaru do the signs for their jutsu, and they both get it off at the same time. He's striking at him with Enma, and Orochimaru is forced to block different things like that. They have exchanges.
Let me go through these. So he throws a kunai at them, and they both start doing a jutsu. And Hiruzen gets his jutsu off, and then Orochimaru gets his jutsu off. I don't think we know the hand seals how many hand seals they have to do. So I won't really say anything about this, this first one. All we just know is that this jutsu is called it's like the pinnacle of jutsu and shit like this. The shuriken one, and then Orochimaru just blocks it with his coffin. I think I have a scan of that if you need it.
Yeah, why does it being the pinnacle of jutsu mean anything? Like, what
it's
does
like,
that mean?
It just means it's like a really strong jutsu that like it's just like a
Yeah.
fucking like thing I'm saying. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So, what is that? Well, like, what's the point of saying it though?
What's the point of saying it? I just like talking. You know what I mean?
Okay. So that point's irrelevant. So I would just say that point is irrelevant.
Well, it wasn't really a point. I was just making a comment.
But then we also see that Orochimaru has to perform the hand signs in order to make them perform the jutsu, and Hiruzen's consistently reacting to and doing his hand signs in response to that as well.
Yeah, so like I was saying, like for this first one, we don't know like how many hand seals they have to do. So like if they're finishing at the same time, like one of them could have been faster than the other here. I don't really know.
Right, so relative,
The
right?
second one, I wouldn't know if it's relative because like I said, we don't know like how many hand seals they have to do. Like what if like Orochimaru had to do like 10 and then Hiruzen had to do like 4? You know what I mean? So
Okay, are you certain that that's the case?
I'm not. I'm saying like because these two things could be the case, and I have no idea which one it is. Like I'll just won't make a claim about it. Like okay, well you can try and assert that like that it's relative, but that kind of implies that this is the same amount of hand seals that need to be done, which I don't think you can prove.
Okay, so you're saying that they're an equal. Actually, I can look, and there's actually the amount for it. So
yeah, if
for
you could
the
post that, I'd like that.
Kage Bunshin, it's said to be ox, dog, dragon, rat, dog, boar, snake, tiger. And then we can just look up Edo Tensei.
For the Shuriken one?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you post that for me? Cause I haven't seen that before. I don't think it matters too much, but you know, because that's just like, Kakashi's like slower than some people, but he does jutsu really fast. You know what I mean?
Like who? When is that?
I think it's like in the Zabuza fight, like Zabuza's like faster than him, but he's like he reaves his jutsu seals like so fast that he's able to keep up.
Zabuza is not faster than Kakashi.
Back then, he was like struggling with him. I recall. I don't really want to get into that because it's not relevant, but
okay, yeah, I was gonna say so. There's
he does Katan, and he does Suitan, and then like Tobirama's just like reacting to him. I don't know what's happening here. It's just him exchanging with the Hokage. Yeah, this is just a lot of him exchanging with the Hokage mainly.
Yeah, and the Hokage are being controlled by whatchamacallit, by Orochimaru.
Yeah, he'd be expending like chakra here, right?
Yeah, so he's performing the hand signs in response.
I'm talking about Orochimaru.
What about it? What'd you say?
I'm just saying like Orochimaru's like expending chakra to like for this jutsu, right?
I don't know how the Edo Tensei works.
You don't know?
Like part 1, the way Edo Tensei works is like impossibly vague.
Oh, did you not say that he was weaving hand seals and jutsu in response to Hiruzen?
No, he's making the hand seals, but it's making the Edo Tenseis use the jutsu. But we have no idea.
Okay, well,
like what?
Did you do know that like when you like the purpose of a hand seal is to convert chakra into a jutsu, right?
Yeah, but I don't know how it works here. Like there's some jutsu that take no chakra.
Like what?
Like body flicker, I'm pretty sure doesn't use any chakra.
Do you have a statement for that? Like,
no, I just never seen anybody get exhausted or shown to be weakened by using the body flicker.
Well, that'd be an argument from ignorance.
If that's the case, even if you're saying, yeah, he's weaving the hand seals, what is he doing with them? Maybe he's weaving the hand seals to make them weave the hand seals. Or maybe he's weaving the hand seals just to control their body to make the hand seals. Okay. And the only thing he's controlling it, which has a minimal amount of chakra, like we don't know how much chakra he's using, nor do we know like what's going on.
Okay, so you're doing to me now what I just did to you a second ago, but I'll explain the situation here, right? So you're saying like the purpose of like a hand seal is to convert your chakra into a jutsu. Now you said well, I don't think like some jutsus like don't have to like use chakra, and then you like brought up the body flicker, right? Like I don't think like body flicker uses chakra, right? And then you said like I asked you like okay, well like what are you basing that off? And he's like you said like I just haven't seen anything that would like indicate that.
Just missed that. That's really
a weak point.
You can
I can dismiss it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, the primary point is that we don't know if he's using a huge amount of chakra, a minimum amount of chakra, or if he's using any chakra at all. Maybe he could be making them shadow his movements. Like those are all possibilities that there's no evidence to not support them.
So if he's using his chakra to manipulate the Kage into performing a jutsu,
right? But we don't know chakra to
hang on,
manipulate.
I was still speaking. So if he's using his chakra to manipulate the Kage into performing a jutsu, well, where are the Kage getting their chakra from?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. We don't know how the Edo Tensei. There's no talk about how the Edo Tensei works.
Okay, I think I have a statement of the Edo Tensei here.
If you're asserting that he needs to use chakra to manipulate the Kage, you'd have to prove that.
Well, you agreed that he's doing seals, right? And you agreed that
doing seals, it could be possible that he's using those seals to simply make them do the seals. They could be shot.
Okay, so
seal doesn't necessarily mean that you're using up your chakra.
So look in scans for me, right? So processing chakra into a technique. Hand seals are a capital step towards the conversion of built-up chakra for a jutsu. Each jutsu has a predetermined hand seals to it, and they have to be performed without a mistake, and the exact moment of the jutsu's activation. Basically, low-level jutsu have simple hand seals. For more advanced jutsu, more complex hand seals are required. So it's talking about how that's the purpose of a hand seal. So it would be like a consuming chakra. Okay, sure, we can say like, oh, we don't actually know by how much. We'd have to go based off like the narrative, right, on like what the context is dictating. Now, the context is just like Orochimaru is not really affected, it doesn't seem, by the amount of like jutsu he's expending. It could be the case, right, that when these Kage are performing these jutsu, he has to provide them with the same amount of chakra that would be needed to perform that jutsu. That could be the case, right? And I think that would likely be the case, right? Because if we do not know where the Kage are getting their chakra from, but we do know that Orochimaru is controlling them, and when he performs a hand seal, they perform a jutsu. What I think is likely happening here is Orochimaru is giving them his chakra in order for them to perform this jutsu. I think that's what's happening here.
Okay, so there's no way to prove that once again, and let me go into a couple things. Number one, academy training, right? Are you asserting that every single time someone makes the fucking single hand seal for the body flicker, their body gets launched across the fucking wherever they're at, no matter what? You have to be able to teach them the hand seals so that their body's being launched across the room. The shadow clone jutsu is also 2 fingers with your cross, right? And there's like a fat ass scroll telling you how to do the jutsu, which would imply that there's more to it than simply making the hand signs.
Okay.
So you can't assert that simply making a hand sign means that you're using up the chakra.
Okay, so obviously, right, chakra manipulation, like I actually being able to flow your chakra into like the hand seals is like a factor, right? Because I think they even talk about like chakra, like, oh, in order for like to actually even like do a jutsu at all, like that's why Rock Lee can't do ninjutsu, right? Because he just can't use his chakra. So you actually, you of course you have to be able to actually manipulate and flow your chakra, right? I'm just saying that the way you perform a jutsu is by converting that chakra into a jutsu, and that's what the seals data book is telling us. That's what it's just basically saying. Oh, that's all I'm saying. I'm just repeating back to what it's saying. Okay, sure, you can bring up these other things. I don't really know too much about Naruto, so I don't want to go into those things. Mm-hmm. I'm just going off what I've seen, and from what I've seen is they do hand seals in order to convert their chakra into jutsu. That's what the data book's saying. That's all I'm saying. I'm not like interpreting it any other way.
And I'm saying that hand seal, just making a hand seal does not necessarily mean that you're using a jutsu. Like, that's just straight up a fact. There is no back and forth. Hand seals are used to perform jutsu. That does not mean that every time a hand seal is used, you're using a jutsu.
Yeah, and sorry, continue.
Yeah, so you can't prove that him using hand seals here means definitively that he's using up his chakra and using it to make them do something. Like I said, it's equally possible that he's just doing the hand signs in order to make them do the hand signs. Because we see every single time that he performs his hand signs, it follows with them performing their own hand signs, similar hand signs. Also, according to Atem, did you know that Hiruzen has the Sharingan? Or
yeah. I was aware that he has the fucking Susanoo and shit. Yeah, nah. That's such a rat scat. I fucking hate you, Tim. That's a joke, by the way. He obviously doesn't have the Sharingan.
Yeah. So obviously, but regardless, I think that this point is like a non-factor. I think that you can't prove it at all.
Yeah. So
we can move on to the next. Do you have any contention with him blitzing and beating up Orochimaru once he stops holding back?
Oh, hang on. I just wanted to quickly like wrap up on that previous, because I didn't get to wrap up there. Like, yeah. So for that previous one, I did like just explain like, why it can be the case that he's doing this, and that. I just wanted to quickly wrap up that. So what was your next point? Sorry.
Just that he blitzes and overpowers Orochimaru.
So can you post the scans for me? Because I want to make sure exactly I know what you're talking about. Like I said, I don't really know too much about this verse.
Yeah.
I'm talking shit in chat. Wow, it's crazy.
Don't.
Sorry, you cut out Aero. What did you say?
I'm just posting it in scan.
Okay.
So he stops holding back. And also, are you aware of the fact that before we get into this completely, I don't want you to know, just hold on real quick. Are you aware of the fact that the shadow clone technique divides your chakra and therefore your stamina equally amongst all the clones?
I saw a statement that, like, oh, if something goes wrong, it's like throwing away chunks of chakra, but I don't think that means, like, Hiruzen, like, lost anything. I don't think it's too relevant, because I'm gonna, like, argue some stuff.
Hold on.
I think we'll
it is relevant.
Really.
It is. So he'd be at 33% of his full stamina, so he'd be significantly, like, tired out and weakened, and that's not including the fact that he's been doing jutsu before this as well.
Well, would that be the case?
Because it's stated that his chakra is distributed evenly amongst all of his chakra, amongst all of his clones.
Yeah, and you're saying he lost that chakra?
He just does. It's in the clones.
Yeah, and when he dismisses them, does he not get that chakra back? Because what Kabuto says, I believe, is that, oh, if something goes wrong, it's like throwing away chunks of chakra. But that's only in the case if something went wrong. I don't believe anything went wrong for Hiruzen.
So during that time, all of the clones are still there. They're holding Hashirama and Tobirama.
Yeah.
So the clones are still there.
And then he dismisses them?
No, he doesn't. They're still there.
No, because look in the first scan you posted, the two are next to him, and then in the panel right underneath it, they disappear.
I don't know if the chakra comes back. I don't think that's ever stated once. There's no evidence to support that. Like, we don't see, like, Naruto, like, dismiss a clone and then, like, he gets stronger again, or we don't see an instance where Naruto dismisses, like, all of his clones and he's significantly amped by the fact that they all just came back. I think it's like a normal jutsu where you expend the chakra and then that chakra is just expended.
Okay. I also don't think there's any evidence to suggest that when you dismiss your shadow clones like that the chakra wouldn't be returned to you. I actually think it's likely, or at least equal to your interpretation, that it does come back, because as Kabuto says, it says, like, it's like throwing away chunks of chakra if things go bad or things go wrong. That's what he says. So if things didn't go wrong, if things didn't go bad for Hiruzen, his shadow clones are just, like, fine and dandy standing next to him. So nothing went wrong for Hiruzen. So I think that he didn't throw away chunks of chakra here, and thus I think he, at this point, doesn't really do anything for you.
Yeah, I think that is not a likely interpretation based on the way that jutsu fucking function in Naruto, right? So when you perform a jutsu, the chakra is expended, period, right? When he's saying if it's going wrong, it's like it's throwing away chunks of chakra, it can mean that he creates two shadow clones and they immediately get poofed because they can only take one hit. So if they get one hit and then they poof, you've just thrown away 66% of your chakra and you've gained nothing. Meanwhile, if it goes well, you have 2 clones who can perform jutsu independently and do something like, I don't know, fucking Reaper Death Seal, the Edo Tensei first and second Hokage. That's going well, but you still use 66% of your chakra. You could say the same thing about any jutsu, like the katon for a genin, right? It takes a whole bunch of jutsu relative to what a genin has to use that katon. So if you miss, you've just thrown away a huge chunk of your chakra. So that doesn't really, like, the counter is not likely.
Okay, so the argument here is that, he's using this, like, jutsu, and it's, like, throwing away, like, a bunch of his chakra, so he's weakened here. As we know earlier on, Orochimaru was also expending, like, his chakra using jutsu, so he would also be weakened. But to address this, right, we are giving these 2 different interpretations, these what seem to be mutually exclusive interpretations of how the Shadow Clone Jutsu works. You're trying to assert, okay, well, when you use a jutsu, you just lose your chakra, period, right? And that you're trying to assert that it just cannot return to you, because that's what you're saying, right? You're saying you lose that chakra, period. So what I am basing my interpretation of is the fact that Kabuto, who generally knows, like, a fair bit about jutsu, is seeing the Shadow Clone Jutsu, and he's like, yeah, because you have to equally divide, like, your chakra like that. When you if things go wrong, it's like losing a bunch of it. But that's in the case of things going wrong, right? So I don't think things are going wrong here for Hiruzen, like I earlier said. And I think even Naruto, right? Doesn't he summon like 2,000 clones and then like fight Gaara, and then like Gaara like slaps all of his clones, and then he goes back to normal Naruto and he's still able to like fight Gaara? Shouldn't he be like 1% strength there or something?
No, because we've seen that Naruto is consistently the exception when using jutsu that take up huge amounts of chakra.
Why is Naruto the exception?
I would say that Naruto it doesn't apply to him. It's stated that Naruto can use that jutsu because of his huge chakra pool. Like they explicitly paint Naruto out to be an exception.
Okay, so if Naruto's he can have a huge chakra pool, right? And if he's equally dividing it by a certain amount, it doesn't matter how big it is because it's an equal division. It's like you can have like having like a massive chakra and then halving it is like still the same as having like a medium amount of chakra and halving it, right? And the fact that he's using 2,000 of like these shadow clones and he's still able to fight normally would imply to me that if you're like willingly dismissing your shadow clones, that there's no actual negative effect, and then I think that would be supported by Kabuto. So I think that the fact that like Naruto can summon like 2,000 chakra clones, dismiss them, and still be able to fight normally is not the case of him being an exception. It's him being smart about his usage of shadow clones and him just dismissing them when he needs to save his chakra.
Yeah, so that doesn't make any sense because they stated that it's a forbidden jutsu because you can die from using this technique.
You can die
so
from every...
if you're getting the chakra back, that means that if they get poofed, it would just go back to you. That would mean that every ninja could effectively be an entire army, and anytime their clones poofed, they would just get that chakra back and be able to do it again.
Okay, so I think you're misinterpreting what I said there. What I was saying was not that like when they get poofed, right, or they get slapped or they get one-tapped, that you get your chakra back. I'm saying if you're able to dismiss, like Hiruzen's doing this, standing next to him, and he dismisses them, which I believe he's doing, that you get your chakra back. Not if they get slapped, because I feel like it's just in and of itself a jutsu to dismiss them. I'm not gonna like assert that, but I'm just like that's just like what I speculate it to be. Seeing as Kabuto says, right, you only lose the chakra if things go poorly, i.e. your clones get slapped. So if things are not going poorly and you willingly dismiss them, I think that would allow the chakra to return, because that's a smart usage of it. That would explain why Naruto is able to like use so many shadow clones, and that would explain why Kabuto only thinks it's a problem to use shadow clones if things go wrong.
Okay, so why is it that when Neji poofs all of Naruto's shadow clones in the Chunin exams, Naruto isn't severely weakened?
Okay, I don't know shit about the Chunin exams. You're gonna need to post like the scans.
Yeah. Gotcha. And then Kimimaru also does it to Naruto, and Naruto is also not significantly weakened. I'll show you both those instances.
Actually, I don't even know if this is like mutually exclusive, because it could be the fact that like Naruto is like a special case when it comes to like how much jutsu he has, and it can also be the case that like smart usage of your shadow clones can dismiss them and stay for chakra. I don't think these things are actually mutually exclusive.
I'm saying that you cannot do that with the shadow clones at all. So they are mutually exclusive.
Post the scan for me so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Bro, Tigger, when fucking Chaku said that Neji scales to wood, oh my god, that shit fucking killed me. Have you got that like recording of that debate? Because I need to clip that.
So if you look in scans,
is any of this relevant? Wait, hang on a second. No, I'm just thinking over something in my head. So Neji slaps a bunch of shadow clones. Why the hell do you always want to make side things like that? Damn, he summons a lot of shadow clones. Holy fuck, that is a lot of shadow clones. Neji's getting fucking like jumped. That shit's like Hanami. Oh my god. So he's slapping a bunch of shadow clones, and then he like punches Naruto in his chest. Like what's this proving?
It proves that his chakra should be like he should have no chakra left, pretty much, if he's divided all of it amongst everybody, right? There's shown to be no difference in these shadow clones and the shadow clones that he created fresh at the fight, and then he's still able to hurt someone who is relative to his base form.
I'm just reading through them. At what point does he hurt him? Because he's just getting slapped so far. That's what I'm seeing.
He hits him with the 64 palms, and he hits him with the rotation.
Yeah, he's slapping Naruto. What's the point? Sorry, I'm trying to wrap my head around it.
He would be weakened, but Naruto later on in that fight is able to uppercut Neji and knock him clean out.
Can you post that? Because I believe he's mentally amped when he does that. You know, I actually think I don't need to engage with this, but in the interest of making like at least a fun debate, I'll continue to engage with this.
If you don't feel like you need to engage with it, let's move on. Because I don't care to entertain.
Yeah, because this mental amp point will be like relevant to the Hiruzen thing. Because I do think Hiruzen was mentally amped when he fought Orochimaru.
Let's move on.
Okay.
So, where do you think that he was mentally amped in that fight?
So, right before his clash with him, actually, when they jump at each other and like they fucking start spurging. So we have like this whole spiel from like Hiruzen, and he's like having these like flashbacks and like this like mental like battle. Even like Enma's like, this isn't like normally like you, like what's going on? And he's like having like, he's in his own head, and he's having like this mental like conflict in his head, and he's like, oh man, Orochimaru was like my student and shit. Like, let me get the exact scans actually, just so I can.
No, I've already.
Yeah. So let me like look through these real quick. So he's like,
sure.
he's like remembering Orochimaru and like how he like couldn't defeat him the first time. Like a bunch of shinobi died because he couldn't stop him.
Because he was back, right?
And then, sorry, you cut out there, so I didn't know what you said. But I'll just
because he was holding back.
So he can be holding back and still mentally amped. So I'll continue with this point.
He can't.
Hang on.
He talked Will of Fire after this.
Well, I can't get the point out. We can talk about like your refutations after I'm done with the point.
Okay. And after this, we can go to conclusions. Honestly.
I haven't got like any win cons yet, so we're definitely not going to do that. We can conclude on this point though, I guess. In Konoha, like every year, new shinobi are born and raised. They live and fight and die in order to protect the village and those within its walls. Everyone in the village, even though we are not connected by blood, is precious to me. They are my family. And Hiruzen himself said that like a true shinobi's strength, he's speaking in totality here, a true strength of a shinobi emerges when he is defending something that is precious to him or her. So this would actually like be a very strong indication of a mentally amped situation. Because back in the Haku fight, when Naruto is like, Haku is like, do you have anyone special in your life? Like, when people are protecting someone truly special to them, they can become as strong as they must be. And earlier on in the debate, I argued that Orochimaru was actually stronger than Hiruzen. And so this would tie into this point, that earlier point would tie into this point, about why Hiruzen was able to actually perform anything against Orochimaru here. And that is because he is mentally amped here. Now, it is true that he could have stopped holding back, and he can be weakened, right? He can be as weakened as he wants to be. And he could have been holding back, but here, the fact that he is amped means that, okay, he's not holding back anymore, so he's trying his hardest, but he's also mentally amped. And if he is amped here, that means he can just be stronger than all of those nerfs, and that doesn't mean anything. And that would explain why he's even able to be relative to Orochimaru, who should, earlier on in the debate, actually be stronger than Hiruzen here.
Okay, so if you look in scans, that whole thing about him getting stronger through the Will of Fire is shown after he's already completed the Blitz.
Do you need me to post the scans, actually? Sorry.
No, I'll post the scans where he talks about it. So he's talking about this, something I was never able to... Yeah, so I want to post the entire thing.
Yeah, I only have that one. That's why I didn't post the whole page.
Yeah, post the whole page. I'm going to post everything. So all of that thing that he's saying is after he's performed the Reaper Death Seal. And he's saying this because Orochimaru says, I don't have enough strength left to pull out all of your soul, right? He can't pull anymore. He's incapable of moving. And then he's like, but your ambition is at an end. This is something I was never able to teach you. When you're protecting something you truly love, you're able to, whatever. That's when your true strength comes out. And then he uses that despite the fact that he couldn't move before and cuts the arms off.
Okay, so let me attack this, right? So, this is like a fun thing that I thought of. He could have been doubly amped. He could have got 2 mental amps here, and I'll explain why I think he actually got 2 different mental amps here. Because you're trying to say that, he got mentally amped here, right? That could be the case, but he could also have gotten mentally amped earlier on, like I'm arguing. These two things aren't mutually exclusive. They can both happen at the same time. And the reason I'm saying that he got mentally amped earlier on, right before their clash, is because that is when the narrative goes on this like big spiel about how like, the Konoha is like my family. Every one of them is like a part of like my family, and I have to protect all of them. They are precious to me. And then he goes on to clash with Orochimaru, right? And we even see in Hiruzen's eyes, he has like this look of determination in his face, like he's resolved to actually fight Orochimaru now. He's resolved to actually kill this dude now. Let me get the scan of this real quick, because
you've already put, like I've already put. We've already
no, there's a different one. I'm referring to a different one.
I posted the exact scans that you're talking about, where his eyes focus and then he beats down on Orochimaru. But that's simply him no longer holding back. And then he elaborates later on in the story, and the scan that you posted to prove that he was Will of Fire amping himself in the first place is from after he's already performed the Reaper Death Seal.
No, you didn't post the scans I was referring to. Let me get them.
I did, and they're directly beneath yours.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about. It's flashback, and then his eyes focus, and then he beats up Orochimaru. We're talking about the same scans.
Because you posted the ones where he's dying. That's the ones you posted.
No, if you literally just scroll up Valor, I'll post it again for you. You talking about this scan where his eyes focus and he rushes at Orochimaru?
Yeah, I'm talking about that one. You didn't post that one.
That's because he just resolved to stop holding back.
He can do both. He can be resolved to stop holding back and be amped there, and I'll explain why. So, the reason I think he is actually amped here is dictated by the narrative and by the context. The narrative is drawing a strong parallel back to that Haku scene, where Haku's like, when you're protecting someone special to you or precious to you, you can be as strong as you need to be. And in the scene, Hiruzen's having a flashback, talking about how all of Konoha is precious to him, and he has to protect them. And Orochimaru's entire reason for being there was to kill, like, Konoha and destroy Konoha. That's literally, like, what he's been trying to do for, like, this entire time. So, he can resolve to kill Orochimaru, stop holding back, and he can also be amped here. And this would mean that he has no scaling.
Okay, so I've already gone into that, how that doesn't line up with how the things are written out narratively. The talk about him amping himself through protecting his village is only brought up in that final thing where he's talking about, I'm going to show you, which indicates that he wasn't doing it before. But we've gone through our points. If you want to address, we can move on. That'd be great.
Let me just post the scans real quick. So this is the scan here of him saying, like, oh, Konoha is precious to me, they're all precious to me, and then right after he does the Reaper Death Steal, and that's right before, like, they clash. So
okay,
that's chapter 122. Hang on, I'm just posting all my scans.
When he stops, like, you didn't show the full flashback where he's talking about how he couldn't stop Orochimaru in the past because that was his right. So I've already talked about that, and then he says, I'm going to show you now what I'm talking about when he's talking about his true strength and protecting his family, which indicates that he's using it then.
Yeah, so the reason I didn't post, like, the Orochimaru flashback, because I don't think it's relevant. Like I said, he can be like mentally amped and stopped holding back, because those things don't contradict. So okay. let me post you wanted to talk about this, like, blitz scene, right? You want to
yeah, sure.
Also, actually, before we do that, I just want to post this scan of, like, fucking Hiruzen even crying, like, that he, like, now has to be resolved to kill his former apprentice.
Correct, right, that's what I'm saying. So let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on there. I think I argued, just to conclude on that point, I argued that Hiruzen is actually mentally amped when he performs this next following feat against Orochimaru, and thus he would have no scaling, because he wouldn't be able to access this normally. So he would have no scaling to Orochimaru, which means he would have no scaling to Itachi, so Itachi would just scale above him. And that would be my conclusion on this point. Anything Aero argued isn't actually mutually exclusive with my interpretation. They don't conflict at all. So we can move on with both of these, and there's no conflict in the narrative. You can conclude if you want on that point, Aero.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say that ours are mutually exclusive because I'm saying that he's not getting amped there, and I'm giving reasons as to why he wouldn't be amped. So they are mutually exclusive because I'm disagreeing with this nigga. So let's move on to the speed point. Do you have any problems with seeing him with the Reaper Death Seal?
With the Reaper Death Seal. So right before this, we see that they are clashing with each other, which would imply relativity. The fact that they're able to react to each other's attacks would imply relativity. Like I said earlier in the debate, Orochimaru should actually be stronger than him, but like we argued more recently, Orochimaru can be, like, weakened here, and Hiruzen is mentally amped here, so that explains why he's actually able to fight him here. So they're implying relativity here. He does knock away the Kusanagi out of Orochimaru's hand. I will grant that is a good feat. But like I said, he's amped, so it doesn't scale. And then you would agree that Orochimaru's attention is on Enma here, right?
No, but first I want to address your very first point. So the whole thing about them being relative, that's purely in Kenjutsu. And on top of that, I'm pretty sure Hiruzen states that Enma is heavy for him to hold. So him no longer holding Enma and performing a faster feat does not contradict at all.
Okay, so in regards to the Enma thing, he does say that towards, like, later on into the fight, where, like, everyone's, like, mocking him for being, like, an old ass gremlin. So this could be a case of him being, like, weaken. But like I said earlier, this mental amp could just be like overpowering that, and the fact that he's like so resolved and he's just going at like Orochimaru here, and he's able to perform these like super relative feats, whereas earlier on he was like struggling, right? You've argued that he's like just stopped holding back. I've argued that he's mentally amped and he can stop holding back. These things don't have to like contradict each other. Sure, this can be kenjutsu, but like there's still a speed tied to swinging these attacks and shit. So yeah, he would still have to swing these attacks. There's still a speed tied to that. That would still be like a somewhat relative speed feat.
Okay, so we can move on then if you're just going to talk about the amp.
I want to talk about Enma as well.
Okay, we can talk about Enma. So I don't think he's distracted by Enma because he's looking at Hiruzen before Hiruzen moves.
Where is he looking at Hiruzen in the scan?
He's looking at Hiruzen in the scan that I posted. Oh, did I not post the exchange? He actually posted it. He's looking at Hiruzen in the left panel on the bottom right side.
Yeah, so that's what I was. Yeah, that's what I thought you was referring to, right? So what I think is happening in this scene, right, to like give my interpretation of the scene, is he's knocking Kusanagi out of Orochimaru's hand, right? And then he's throwing Enma at him to gain Orochimaru's attention. And Orochimaru has fallen for the bait and stopped Enma from hitting him. And in the process of doing that, it has given Hiruzen an opportunity to run over and grab Orochimaru. And this is a misdirection tactic. This is common in Naruto, actually, from what I've seen. And even in the Zabuza fight, like you obviously know how like Hiruzen's called like the professor of the fucking Leaf Village, and like a genius like fucking shinobi. And simple genin, like retarded people like Naruto, and obviously smarter people like Sasuke are able to perform these misdirection tactics on people like Zabuza who have way more experience, and they work. Even Itachi and Kakashi are trying to do it on each other. So what I think is happening here is they are demonstrating misdirection techniques, right? And to further validate that this is misdirection, the purpose of the substitution jutsu is solely for the opponent to lose their attention of you in order to gain an opportunity to attack them or to flee the battle. I can post that scan if you need it.
No, I don't care.
Okay.
Like,
so
because he's stopped Enma and he's looking at Hiruzen. Like it's not misdirection because he's looking at him. Like he's staring dead at his ass.
Okay. So by saying like, oh, he's just staring at him, right? We don't actually know like the time frame in between those two panels, right? Because he could have stopped Enma, and then as soon as he's even like surprised in that panel, like exclamation marks, reaction mark, he's surprised, he's looking, he's like, what the fuck? This dude's so close to me. So I think what's happening is he's stopping Enma, and as he's looking to the right, Hiruzen's already so close to him that he can just grab him, right? He's already shown like relativity previously, so the fact he's so close here and Orochimaru has so little time to actually do anything, this should easily allow him to simply tag Orochimaru once, which is all he needed in that time. So like I said, I think this is a misdirection tactic from Hiruzen, the professor of the fucking Leaf Village, a genius, right? So he likely should be using these techniques, these misdirection techniques. Literally the purpose of substitution jutsu is to create a misdirection, is to gain an opportunity through misdirection. And even earlier on, people who are much less like mentally capable than Hiruzen and who are much less experienced than Hiruzen are also using complex misdirection tactics like Naruto, like Sasuke, like Kakashi, and even Itachi is using these misdirection tactics to gain an advantage. I think it's a common thing within Naruto, so I think the fact that he's doing it here would actually be like a good narrative piece.
So, yeah, but he's not misdirected because you're looking at him. We can move on.
Yeah, we can move on. So I don't think you counted that at all. I think like, he can be looking at him, but like obviously I've argued he's misdirected him. Misdirected him. So like, and he's surprised when he's looking at Hiruzen. So the fact that like, he's just been misdirected. He's surprised. He has so little time to react. And they've already shown relativity. It's just a perfect chance for Hiruzen. All to do is to just grab him. So you can conclude now, and then we can move on to my other things.
Yeah, he's just my conclusion, he's trying to say it's a misdirection, but Orochimaru is looking at him and he sees him. Like, he's trying to argue that there's some unknown time frame, right? But there's an unknown time frame in every panel in manga. So we can't assume that it took necessarily long or necessarily short, right? It's just a bunch of like him trying to assert that it's an equal possibility, but having no actual evidence to prove his assertion. So we can move on. You said you wanted to just prove your win con, because my win con is just that he beats Itachi to death. Just to be clear.
So my win con is obviously I've scaled him above Orochimaru. I've scaled Itachi above Orochimaru, who should be above Hiruzen based off my my scaling, right? Since what I've argued is essentially Hiruzen has no scaling, so he could just win through pure stats. That's a win con. He could just run up to him, stab him. He should be fast enough to do that. Another way for Itachi to actually win this fight is to Tsukuyomi him. And I know you have strong opinions on Tsukuyomi, so you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I would just say that he wouldn't make eye contact because he has anti-Sharingan techniques.
And what do those anti-Sharingan techniques do?
Makes you look at the ground, look at your opponent's feet to counter them, rather than looking into their eyes or looking at their upper body.
Okay, so why would Hiruzen use this in character?
Because he's fighting someone with the Sharingan, and you just talked about how he's like this genius, the professor, all that type of shit. Agreed with.
So
he would use anti-Sharingan techniques against someone who's using the Sharingan.
So he's extremely like battle smart, right? Like when he's like in a fight, he knows like the strength of his opponent. He knows like he has a good gauge of his opponent, right?
What?
I'm just saying, does Hiruzen, like when he's fighting someone, he has a good gauge of his opponent? He has like a good understanding of his opponents, right? Just from battle smarts.
I have no idea. Like I don't know all the fights Hiruzen's had up to this point. He's only fought Orochimaru, who just so happened to be a student. I think it would be weird to like assert that he knows every opponent that he's ever fought.
I'm not saying he knows them. I'm just saying like he has like strong battle smarts, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So that would lead like a validation to my earlier statement of like how like
moved on. Focus on the point we're talking.
I'm saying your argument here, or like the fact you agree to that, is tying into my earlier points now. Of okay,
now, I've already addressed that earlier point about it not being misdirection.
No, not in misdirection. I'm not talking about misdirection. But you know, thanks for bringing that up. But I'm tying. What I'm doing, Aero, is I think you're not understanding.
Valor,
you're cutting out.
Valor, you said that leads credence to my earlier point. We're not talking about that earlier point. We've moved on. Let's talk about the anti-Sharingan technique, and then let's go to conclusions, because I don't care for this debate to keep going.
Okay,
so current point, bro.
What I'm saying is that this argument is validating my earlier ones. That's all I'm saying. We don't have to go back into those. I'm just saying this leads to like even more support.
Here.
Later arguments can do that for earlier ones. Okay. I know you don't care. I think it's relevant to my argument, so I'm going to say it. So
Valor, let's talk about technique. Do you have any other counters?
I'm gonna get my argument out. So like you don't have to care. That's fine. But I think it's relevant to my argument. So
your previous argument. So make the current argument.
Okay. So the reason this I'm just gonna continue. The reason this leads credence to my earlier arguments is if Hiruzen is incredibly like battle smart and he understands his opponents a lot. This would mean he understands like when he talks about like Orochimaru earlier on in the debate. And how he's like, oh, he thinks he's stronger than him. This would lead validation to that earlier statement, which would then upscale Itachi, and this would lead even more credence to my interpretation of the misdirection point earlier, like Aero actually brought up. I didn't even like think of that. He brought that up for me, so thank you for that. So to talk about this anti-Sharingan techniques.
Thank you.
Like you said, right? He sees a Sharingan. He would just look at the ground, but that implies that he would be like act fast enough. He would actually act before Itachi, right? Because as I've scaled Itachi should be fast enough to where if he's faster than Hiruzen, he should be able to act first. All he has to do is look at Hiruzen and Tsukuyomi him. That's all he has to do. And if he can act first, he should be able to do that. And then I can support why this would even be more likely to be the case, even if they were relative. Because, like I've said, Itachi uses like strong misdirection tactics. That would be a way for him to get it off. But the Tsukuyomi also moves at light speed. Do you know about that?
Yeah, it doesn't matter because he would have to make eye contact with him. He's not gonna start the fight looking at Itachi's eyes. Why the fuck would he start the fight with Itachi of the Sharingan looking into his eyes?
Well, he has to recognize it's Itachi, right?
So he's, you know what? I'm not even gonna play with you, bro. I'm not even gonna play with you. You're gonna fucking recognize that it's Itachi by the dog. I can't believe you said that. I'm not even gonna play with you, bro.
That shit was funny.
So let's go to conclusions then. If that's what you think, let's go to conclusions.
No, I still want to talk about like Amaterasu. So, like I said in that point, just to conclude, I think a way he could get Tsukuyomi off is just through misdirection. I also think like because it travels at light speed, you should just be able to like blitz Hiruzen with it. So next I just want to talk about Amaterasu. You know about Amaterasu?
Yeah, I know what a Amaterasu is.
Yeah, and it's like stated it can like burn anything under like heaven and earth, right?
Sure, but it takes it's slow burning as well.
Yeah, so if you set Hiruzen's head on fire, you wouldn't be able to see anything. You just slowly burn to death, right?
Yeah, I just think he wouldn't be able to tag him with it.
Okay. And you also know that like Itachi has like really strong precog, right?
Yeah, but I don't think that matters either because Kakashi was relative to him. Kakashi was able to fight back against him, different shit like that.
Okay.
And
So, hang on, let me
Kakashi
explain real quick.
well, no, I'm talking. I'm not gonna
Continue
hold
then.
on. And Kakashi is able to use and Kakashi is able to fight against like it cuts down to Orochimaru and is relative to Guy and different shit like that.
What?
So I think it all.
You cut
What?
out? Can you repeat for me? Because you cut out.
Like Kakashi scales to Kabuto, who cuts down to Orochimaru, and Kabuto was like sucking fucking Hiruzen's dick in the hideout. So that would also imply that niggas on Kabuto's level who are beneath Orochimaru can deal with that precog and react to it.
Okay, so the reason I think like he could actually deal with that precog is Itachi is just blatantly like not really like trying to kill Kakashi there, and B, Kakashi also has like a Sharingan of his own, which is strong precog, so that's why I think he'd be able to deal with it. But the reason I'm saying Itachi has super strong precog is because like the 3 Tomoe Sharingan, like the precog it gives is more or less a blitz difference.
Yeah, I don't care because
Okay.
Kakashi and back goes to Kabuto. So can we go to conclusions, or
Okay.
did you wait? You said you wanted to talk about fucking the Amaterasu? You already, or is that the point?
We already talked about that. You said
Okay,
like
so
I don't care. He just wouldn't get hit by it.
Yeah, we can go to conclusions.
Okay, so just to wrap up on this real quick. So basically, fucking the precog, right? So it's like a blitz level difference. Aero just like kind of accepted that, right? The fact that he can precog to like the point where he can like precog blitzes and he can still react to him, like in that Sasuke fight, which is what I was gonna bring up, but Aero didn't need me to. It's basically like Naruto's like fucking blitzing 2 Tomoe like Sasuke, and then he gets his Sharingan, his 3 Tomoe Sharingan, and he just like hard fucking precogs Naruto, and he's able to like keep up with Naruto despite like previously getting blitzed when he had 2 Tomoe. So this, and like the only thing that changed was he gained precog. So this isn't like an insanely strong like precog level. Even if Hiruzen was like relative or blitz level, he has such Itachi has like such strong precog that I think it would make a big difference. And then I just want to talk about how these abilities would interlink real quick. So if Itachi has such strong precog like this, I feel like he's just gonna precog it's Hiruzen's like movements, Amaterasu him in the face. He's not gonna be able to see anything. He's just gonna get like fucking like negged by Amaterasu. He could precog him where he's gonna go and then position himself to Tsukuyomi him, can neg him through that and win the fight through that. Obviously I've talked about his misdirection tactics. He could misdirect Hiruzen into walking into Amaterasu, into walking Tsukuyomi, and went through that. I've talked about how he can win through pure stats because he scales above Orochimaru, who scales relative to an amped Hiruzen, and normally should scale above a normal Hiruzen. So it'd be Itachi over Orochimaru, over Hiruzen, which is just definitive stat scaling, which would allow him to win through that way. I think that's mostly it. He should just be stronger than Hiruzen and win through stats. He should be able to precog anything he does and fucking Tsukuyomi that dude, instantly winning the fight. Amaterasu him in the face. He can't see anything. He just dies. And even if Itachi just fucking sparked out and just didn't do anything and just like wanted to like fight him with a fucking kunai, he should just precog everything and like stab him in the throat. Like these are just all ways Itachi can win this fight like super easily. We can go to conclusions now. I just wanted to say how my these abilities interlinked with each other and why they would win.
All right. So do you want to give your conclusions first or me?
You can go first because I want to take a drink of this. I want to drink.
Okay. So in conclusion, I think that I won because of it. I don't think it was contested at all. I don't think it really was like a good debate even. I think I won the speed point about the blitz. He never contested it was a blitz. And he also tried to assert that he was double mentally amped when he tried to talk about narrative. when the narrative that he was presenting, the thing that he was talking about the thing about him being there to show his true strength and all those different things like that, him going to show his true strength was after the speed blitz. I also said that he would have anti-Sharingan techniques, so none of his ocular genjutsu would work. And even in the Tsukiyomi, which travels at light, wouldn't work because he would still need to make eye contact with him for it to fly across the air, whatever the fuck. We also talked about the Shadow Clone Jutsu, and I said that this was an Hiruzen at 33% of his strength, and I proved that through the Shadow Clones, making it so your strength is pushed out like amongst all your other clones. What else? And that would just weaken him with his stamina as well, which would make him more tired in his fight against Hiruzen, or in his fight against Orochimaru. So I gave a quantification, while my opponent never gave any quantification for how much he's amped, quote unquote. I also believe that I just won the scaling point because he just said that Itachi scales above Orochimaru. I said that Hiruzen scales above Orochimaru, and he's a blitz speed above Orochimaru. He also tried to bring up how he has a 3 Tomoe Sharingan, and that 3 Tomoe Sharingan can make up for a blitz level in speed. But I said that doesn't matter because people who scale below Hiruzen, like Kabuto, scale to Kakashi, who scales to Itachi in terms of reaction speed. So that's why I believe I won this debate. I don't think my opponent really gave any good arguments.
Okay, so unlike Aero, I do think this was a good debate. I think I fucking raging demoned him from Street Fighter and just like fucking destroyed him. So basically, at the start of this debate, we fucking argued Orochimaru stronger than Hiruzen. Is Orochimaru stronger than Hiruzen? That was the main point, because I argued Itachi, a full power Itachi is stronger than a suppressed Itachi, who is stronger than Orochimaru. We went back and forth a little on that suppressed point. I think I won it. It doesn't really matter if I didn't, because Itachi being stronger than Orochimaru isn't contested at all. Then we argue, is Orochimaru stronger than Hiruzen? Okay, Orochimaru is stronger than Hiruzen, and I argued this is because Hiruzen himself claims that Orochimaru is stronger than him, and Orochimaru also thinks he is stronger than Hiruzen, right? He tried to I had to like get it out of him that what he was arguing was the feats contradict the statements, right? So that was his main argument. He was like being a bit wordy with it, but once I got like the core idea of his argument, that's what we progressed under, because that's what he was arguing. And then the feat he used was basically Hiruzen and Orochimaru like clashing and like the Reaper Death Seal shit, right? What I argued there was, well, before that we argued, like, we went a little back and forth on jutsu and shit, and like the Hokage basically argued, okay, Orochimaru is like expending chakra, he'd actually be weakened himself. And then we go into amped Hiruzen. Is Hiruzen mentally amped? He tried to say, okay, well, Hiruzen is mentally amped after he grabs Orochimaru, not before. So it would still be a blitz, right? I argue, okay, he can be amped there, but he could also have gotten an amp earlier on. He could just be doubly amped, or he could have just been amped earlier on. And then to support that, I use the fact that the entire narrative is talking about how like Hiruzen has to protect his village, and he has to fight. They're all precious to him. And then in the Haku fight, it talks about, okay, if you fight for someone that's precious to you, you can be as strong as you need to be. So I dictated based off of that he would be amped here, and it wouldn't scale at all to a normal Hiruzen. Thus, Hiruzen would have no scaling. So when he fights Orochimaru here, it doesn't mean anything, right? And even then, they were relative there, which like Aero tried to argue, it was Kenjutsu, and I talked about how, okay, well, it still requires at least some level of speed in order to fight at that level. And then we go into, okay, well, did Hiruzen actually blitz him here? No. I argued it was misdirection. I argued, okay, well, Hiruzen, dumber people like Naruto have actually used like really complex misdirection tactics. Other people like Itachi and Kakashi have used misdirection tactics. And Hiruzen is like renowned as this genius and professor that should be like really smart, right? So I argued, okay, based off of this, he should also be like using misdirection tactics, and I think he's doing that there. We even like looked at the scan. It's like, oh look, Orochimaru is even surprised when he sees Hiruzen in the bottom right. There's exclamation marks, there's a reaction mark. He's like, oh shit. So I think what happened here was, like I said, he threw Enma at him to gain his attention, And in that time, he ran up to Orochimaru and grabbed him. And then I talked about the substitution jutsu and how the whole purpose of it was to just gain your attention, was to just take your attention to create an opportunity to attack them or run away. He didn't ask for that scan. He didn't like care about it. He just said, I don't care. He was looking at him. And like I said in the debate, okay, just because he's looking at him doesn't mean like it wasn't a misdirection tactic. Like that, him looking at him doesn't refute what I'm like saying at all. And then after that, we moved on to Tsukuyomi Lightspeed. So we talked about, okay, well, you know, the Tsukuyomi is Lightspeed. He didn't provide any contention that it was like, oh, anti-Sharingan techniques. He just look at his feet. I was fucking with Aero a little bit, and I was just saying like, oh, how does he know it's like Itachi, right? I wasn't even being half serious there. The main argument about that is like, okay, if he's faster, and like if he's faster than like Hiruzen, he should just be able to run up to him and Tsukuyomi him, like I said. I also said that he could obtain the Tsukuyomi like win con through just misdirecting Hiruzen. Like I said, like he used misdirection in the Kakashi fight. He didn't have any contention with that, so I said, yeah, he'll just misdirect him and like Tsukuyomi him. There wasn't. I think he was just like saying like, oh yeah, anti-Sharingan technique somehow. And the fact he tried to say like, he then appealed to the statement as well. I got him to appeal to the statement like, oh yeah, like you said, like he's a genius, right? He's like a professor. He's like pretty battle smart. That would then, by virtue of him like agreeing to that, would actually lead credence to my earlier arguments of, if he's super battle smart and a genius, right, he should know what he's talking about when he says Orochimaru is stronger than him. And if he's super battle smart and a genius, right, it should lead even more credence to the idea that this was a misdirection tactic, especially when like stupider people are doing it. So that was like a big thing. After that, we talked about Amaterasu. He had like no real contention to Amaterasu. He just said, oh, just wouldn't get hit by it. He didn't disagree that like if it hit him, he said it was a slow burn, but that doesn't mean like it won't kill him. I just said he'd Amaterasu Hiruzen in the face and blind him. He can't, obviously, if he's blind, he can't do anything. I don't think I need to like actually talk about that. But if he's blind, he can't do anything. He got fucking Amaterasu in the face, he's just gonna die. And then after Amaterasu, we talked about the Sharingan precog. I said, okay, well, it's like a blitz level difference in the case of Naruto and Sasuke. There's like this, Sasuke's getting blitzed, and then he gets his 3 Tomoe, he gets his precog, and then someone who's blitzing him, he's just able to keep up with him. So, he already agreed that it's strong precog. He tried to appeal to like, Kakashi had a fucking Sharingan. He was able to like fight Itachi and shit. Like earlier in the debate, I just blatantly said like, yeah, Itachi's just like not going all out and shit against Kakashi. He's not really trying here. He's not doing anything. So this wouldn't actually be a refute. And he was like, oh well, people are like relative to Kakashi who are like who suck off Hiruzen. That doesn't defeat my argument of this being like a blitz level factor just because he's like sucking off Hiruzen, you know. That's not a refute at all. It doesn't actually defeat my argument in any way. So what I argued right at the end is to tie everything together is, okay, well, Itachi can just precog and Amaterasu him in the face. He could just run up to him and stab him. He could just precog everything he does normally. He could precog him and Tsukuyomi him. He has the tactics on his side. He has the intelligence on his side. He has the stats on his side. He has the abilities on his side. And I think Aero managed to prove anything he said. I think he lost literally every point. And we're done here.